Okay, so today, this is the third ADD, fourth ADD digital workshop. So we are going to focus on Revit. So you've been seeing already, you've been having Rhino workshops, you've been having Grasshopper workshops, Ladybug, and then we're finally digging into BIM. We'll get to what BIM is in a bit. Um, Revit. So Revit is part of an Autodesk package. Some of you might have heard of it already. It's a software that's been widely used in the practice, but is now becoming more and more used in the academia as well. We feel it's very important that every one of you get a grasp on the use of Revit, because indeed, well, first reason, practices need people who know Revit. And then the second reason is to try and begin to understand what it means to working in a BIM environment, what it means to work collaboratively with other people as well on the same project, right? The way I'm organizing this class today is we'll be having a brief introduction, what we're having now on the overall understanding of the software, the terminology, starting building a bit of a digital vocabulary around the use of Autodesk Revit. And then there will be a software overview. So we'll open an example file. We'll look at the example file and trying to understand the main logic of the software, how the user interface is organized, right? Before we start from scratch and we build our own project in Revit, which will be our practical exercise today. We'll take a case study. So this will be from scratch. We'll get drawings in, and using those drawings, we will actually create a case study, a building of a villa, right? And then we'll draw a conclusion from that. I'm gonna try and keep a sort of like a short break in between. A mid-session, let's say, but we really need to see how we get along, and if you guys follow along to the tutorial. So. What is BIM, right? I mentioned about BIM. Is there anyone in here who already had experience with BIM, or you guys been working with Revit or any other BIM software before? One person. Cool. So probably you're familiar with this term. BIM stands for Building Information Modeling, and I think I can make this connection with you guys when I say that if we compare this to Rhino, so something that we've been seeing in the past workshops, and probably you already started working with, but it can be anything, can be SketchUp, can be any other modeling software. The main difference with BIM is that when you're working in a BIM environment, you're actually associating your geometry with a certain set of information. So it's not just anymore an extrusion that is defined, let's say, by its measurements on X, Y, and Z, but it is way more than that. It carries a category, so it can be defined as a wall, what type of wall, what is the structure of this wall, so we can get to define the stratigraphy of the wall, and then and by doing that, we also define the cost per square meters of that specific wall. So I'm just giving you the wall example, just because this is how you used to work in other software, right? You just maybe extrude curves on a Z direction, and then you build a wall. But is not giving you back many information about what actually that's technically, that's not even a wall, right? That's just a solid, or the way it will be described in any of the other software you've been using so far will either be like, maybe it's a closed poly surface, or if it's just a flat surface, it will be just a surface, or if you're using mesh, it will be a mesh, right? So BIM take it to a step further, where once again you can define can you hear me from there? You probably don't hear me there. Okay, I'll try to be louder. So BIM is taking this one step further, whereas it's giving you information about what is the category, or better put, as we are starting introducing Revit terms, a family for that specific item. In that sense, a building becomes a sort of like a library, right? A series of elements that you can count, you can reorganize, you can exchange. And another important aspect of BIM and why we use it is because, not as it happens in Rhino or any other 3D modeling software where you're just sharing a piece of geometry. And when you're sharing a piece of geometry, there might be some information that you hear from the model itself, but we're not really speaking a universal language, right? We're just creating some geometry, and then we're not telling the person we are passing the file to if this is this actually a wall, like how much does it cost to build that, right? And BIM, as I said before, based on the premises that we made before, when we're sharing this, we can share the file with a multitude of professional figures that span from, say, like engineers to people working in say like the plumbing industry, MEP, and so on. And all these people, and this is another great advantage of BIM, all these people can work on the project almost simultaneously, right? Each person can bring their own expertise in, and they can start interface with what the work has been from, say, my company, which is an architecture office, and then going back and check it against what the structure engineers did, right? Something that might be not that relevant to you as students, but is always good to keep that in mind. And so it's good to keep it in mind because, of course, it carries certain implication. One implication would be for sure that if you screw a Revit model, it's not the same as getting a messy Rhino file. So being clean and precise and organized in Revit or any other BIM software is crucial, right? As I said before, you get a BIM model get way more exposure than your geometry sitting in a Rhino file, and you can do pretty much whatever you want with it. You own the authorship of that, while in a BIM model you're actually sharing it with other figures, right? And they need to understand what's going on in the file. Why Revit versus the plethora of software that we have available? So Revit, first reason, Revit is the most used BIM software, at least in the architecture and engineer industry, right? Architecture and construction industry is using Revit predominantly in the field, and you will find, especially in architecture, and if you're looking at job postings, they are mainly looking for people who know Revit. There are several. There is Allplan, ArchiCAD I can think of, like the most famous ones. That being said, even myself, I've been trying and testing the use of different ones. But I must say, speaking from a perspective of a person who's been working with Autodesk software, there is definitely some friendly connection between the software, and for sure, Revit is also the one that better communicates with other architectural software. So this is coming from the fact that it's the most used, and then it's kind of like a circle, right? It starts to better communicate with software like Rhino, for instance. There are new plugins coming in, and then it's more and more widely accepted as the main software to use for BIM. So this is one of the main reasons why we teach Revit. I think it's the most useful BIM software for you to learn while in school, right? At the same time, as I said, we can branch out from Revit and connect to other software that we're teaching on the way, either at ADD or your atelier might be teaching on the way. So let's get our hands on the software finally. You should all have Revit installed on your machines. I'm aware of the fact that I'm using Revit 2023 while you might have 2022 installed on your machine. That shouldn't be an issue, right? So the first thing that we want to do, I'm gonna jump back on my desktop and I'm gonna open Revit and see how the homepage look. It might take a bit to open. You probably notice if you have installed it on your computers, you might have noticed that it's quite heavy software. And that's also because it kind of, when you download it, it downloads all the libraries that it needs to sit in. And as I said before, libraries are not just meant to be simple 3D geometry, but they're all parametric objects, right? And they carry certain information. So all this information, of course, they are having on the memory. Cool. So when you firstly open the software for the first time, this is what you should be seeing on your screen, right? Just a generic homepage. In this generic homepage, you might have a few examples outlined, and you immediately see that there is a big, there is two main categories. So the page is split into models and families, right? What we're going to open is a model. And as I said before, I don't want you to get confused now about families. We won't really have time to dig deep into what a family is, how to modify a family. But you need to think of it as a sort of like a project nested in a project. So the one that you see in here, this is a table, right? It says sample architecture family. That table on itself is a project, and it's loaded. It can be loaded inside a model, right? Why is it a project? Because then you can open that in that object individually, and you can go and modify the settings, the parameters defining this geometry, and that would have an immediate effect then in the model where it's referenced. All right. First thing that I want you to do is to open this sample architecture project. So you click on it once, and Revit will think for a bit about, because it's a lot of things going on in here, and then it will open this, which is called the title sheet. So in the title sheet, we see a series of information, and you might think that this is all kind of, this looks a bit of what InDesign might look like, when you open a board, but it's definitely not the same thing. So you need to think of like these elements that are in here, all referring to specific views, specific items that have been created inside the software, and items that I can go back on, change, and that would have an immediate effect on my final board, if this is my final board, right? And then I can eventually print it or whatever, right? Cool. Talking about the user interface, I guess you all have it looking the same, right? I hope so. Something that might change is like someone has one of these windows that is on the other side, but it should be pretty much looking the same. Nobody should have different windows from what I see on the screen, right? So how is the interface structure in Revit? We have these up here, which are called ribbon, right? We have these ribbon or shelf where you get all the main operations you can do on your model. So it's not that many, I know, until you start to open these little substructure, right? These subtabs, and you see that there is something related to structure, something related to architecture. This is a hint of what I told you before, right? Like it's several departments working within the same software. So you might need to just focus on a couple of those tabs and not even like never touch the others. That will be the engineer. That will be the MEP consultant going on that and do the work that needs to do. I'm gonna open one plan. Where do I find the drawings that are currently in my project? If you look down here, there is one thing called Project Browser. This is the Project Browser. And you see in blue, checked in blue, all the drawings that are currently somehow present in the boards, right? They are used in the boards. Not necessarily in this board, but on another one. This is the main navigator for you. This is the main way for you to navigate inside the project. Okay, so floor plans, I can go to level 1, double click on it. So this is the plan, one of the many plans for my project. I can open level 2, and I can open the site view. All right. So you see, as I'm opening this, all the windows here start to pile up, right? So I have a succession of different, they're like subfolders that open up, and I can go back to the one I need at the moment. I can close it. Doesn't mean I'm closing the entire project. I'm just closing that view for now. All right. Let's see. I want to see the 3D of this, because these are all drawings, and you might think, coming from an AutoCAD perspective, okay, someone, sketch in 2D the plans, sketch the sections, but actually, the cool thing about BIM, one of the cool things about BIM is indeed what I told you before. It's not just about a line. It's not just about an extrusion. It's not just about a geometric shape. It's about the information that it carries. So if I move to the 3D, which you have in here, you have 3D views, and you have several. I'm just going to move to the generic 3D, right? Double click it. This is the actual model from which we get all the rest of the drawings, sections, plans, images for the renders, axons, everything, right? With a few clicks, if you know how to set it up. And it is something that we will see when we start and work on the practical exercise. So here's our 3D. How do we navigate the 3D in Revit? With your mouse, it's very simple. So zoom in and zoom out. You just scroll the mouse wheel, right? So middle mouse button, zoom in and zoom out. Then if you want to pan, you once again use the middle mouse button. You just keep it pressed. You're panning around. If you want to orbit around your geometry, shift and middle mouse button, keeping it pressed, and you can orbit around your object. At the moment, this is orbiting around the entire object, but if we do come in and select one specific item, like this frame, for instance, you'll see that now this is the center of my rotation. Okay? And of course, if I zoom in and zoom out, it'll be the same, right? This is going to be the focus of my camera. Of course, you can also use the view cube, what is called the view cube. Now it's pretty much, you find it in every Autodesk software, right? That's another way to navigate your project. Quickly get to these parallel views or axon. But I think it's important that you learn the shortcuts on the keyboard, because that's normally how I navigate the project. Is way faster and immediate. Cool. So we open the 3D. I want to show you something else. So let's close the site, the title sheet. Let's just keep the level 1 and the 3D. And I want to go to, I think it's view, and click on tile views. So in this way, I can split my viewport. All right. So the viewport will be split according to the number of views that you have active, of course. That's why I close all the others but these two. I just want to have it split vertically between the plan and the 3D. This is just to show you that whatever I go and select in one drawing, this is just to reiterate and reinforce what I was saying before. Everything is connected. So whatever I'm to select in one drawing will show either on the 3D or if it shows on the section and so on. So if I now change the size of this wall, well, I'll get an error, but then let's not focus on that for now. What you see is that this has an immediate effect on the 3D as well, right? So this drawing here actually carries same information as the 3D, right? Is exactly the same item, is the same family. So this is very important to understand when we work with BIM. And everything is connected, right? So here you see that I have indication for the area of a room, kitchen and dining, right? So I grab this wall as I did before, right? I grab this wall and I just drag its profile and I change its position. There is something that is happening. It's telling me that the room is not enclosed, so it cannot calculate the area. You see, like everything is interconnected in Revit. That's why I'm saying if you screw a Revit model, that's kind of an issue. Like, it's not like, okay, Rhino, I move it back. All right. Few other things I want to show you. On the 3D, we can control how we visualize the model. So down here, you have a series of information, a series of instruments, an option for how you're going to render the view. One of the main ones is here, where you have the visual style. This is set to consistent colors, sorry. You can set it to wireframe. You can have it hidden lines. You can turn on the shadows, for instance, right? And have more of a technical drawing feeling. Another thing that I can do, let me go back to consistent colors or shaded, doesn't matter. Another thing that I can do is to check what is currently hidden in this view. So if I turn this on, I'll see that there is one item. We'll be talking about that later. I'll show you where these things are. One item that is hidden. So I can also control the visibility of certain items in the view. Coming from the fact that we have tons of elements that are repeated in every single view, just because it's all interconnected. It's not a new drawing that I'm creating, but it's like a flat projection of what is in the 3D. So whatever I get in the 3D then gets to the next drawing, and then the next, and then the next. So it's up to us to control the visibility of the elements in each specific drawings. That's why we have this visibility option that we can switch on and off. So I do have this, which is a section box. So what I can do is to say on hiding view elements. So I can kind of like, okay, I'm going to show it in the 3D. And I'm going to show you even how a very simple instrument like this could turn your model into, several drawings. Like, so this is a sort of what a clipping plane would be in Rhino, right? But it is fully interactive. It's once again parametric, right? So this is a quick way to create cool drawings, for instance, of sections or perspective section or accent of your model, right? In the same way, I'm gonna bring this back to normal. Okay. In the same way, you can check the visibility of an item. So say I don't want to see this roof here, and I want I need to present somehow my geometry to my professors or my client, so like in an exploded way. I don't want to show the roof. I want to show what's inside. You can simply select the roof. You don't need to delete anything. You do right click, and you can do hide in view, either elements or category. We're gonna go with elements because that's the only element we want to take out from the view. I'm gonna say hide, and here we go. We can activate the shadow, and now the shadow will react as if the roof is not there, right? It's just hidden, but the shadows will react to what's actually in there, and what's hidden will be taken into account as such. Okay, one last thing, which is very important as well. It's sort of like completing the interface for us is what you have on the top left here on the vertical bar, which is the properties. Extremely important. So as I said before, each element in Revit carries certain information, right? It's not just a piece of geometry. So if I select, let's say, well, this portion of the wall, you see that information start to populate this portion here, and it tells me what it is. It is a curtain wall, right? What type of, what is the base constraint for the curtain walls? It starts at level 2. Okay. And where does it get to? It does get to the level of the roof. So it gets to the roof line. I have all this information that I can come here and change. So it's all fully parametric and procedural. Is it room bounding? Something that we saw before, right? I was creating those rooms and it was giving me information such as the area of a room. Why? Because the wall that sets the perimeter of it is room bounding. If it wasn't, I wouldn't get that information. And I can go in here and change this to another type of a wall, right? When we're talking about families, and something that you can't do in other software, in other modeling software, right? So I don't know, I'm just doing something completely random, but I'm turning this into a concrete wall. And you see, it was done with one click, right? Imagine though the amount of information this little click carries. If I had a schedule now, which I can do within the same software, if I had a schedule with the exact number of walls, the square meters of that type of walls, the cost for each of them, that schedule would automatically update in another window without you even knowing. Okay. Similarly, we do have another family here, which is single window, right? Single window standard. It tells you what it is in here. Let's say that I'm not super happy with this window. I want to use a larger one. Oh, yeah, I don't know, for some reason I'm very limited here with the option that I do have. There was some issue with the download of the families. You should, when you open this, you can check, you should have a list of windows, right? But what I can do, I can go and edit the type. So instead of having this single type, I'm gonna create my own version of it. So I'll create a duplicate first because I don't want to, save over this one and delete it. So I'm gonna create a duplicate and I'm gonna call it, I don't know, large window. Ideally, I will input the measurements, but it's not the case today. Large window. And you see that here in the properties, you have all the attributes for that windows that we have over there. Now we're working on the large window type, which is a new type that I created. So I can make all the changes and that's fine. It's not gonna overwrite the previous one. So for instance, I want to change, let's see, I probably just want to change the width. So let me change the width and bring it to 120. And then large window standard, and then you see, well, it's not a big change, but you see that I basically changed the proportions of the window, right? So if I go back, select my large window, edit type, construction. I should have affected more. Casement. Well, anyway, I should have changed more than that. Maybe it's considered the depth. Check. Okay. Well, you see there is like little changes that are happening to the window, right? So I created my own version of it, which is fine. And this is gonna be counted as a different items whenever I get to schedule and I get to counting the items that are present in my model. Cool. This is pretty much for the interface. That's pretty much all. What I was saying before, you see architecture. Under the architecture shelves, you have walls, doors, windows, columns, roofs, like all, this is all terminology that we are familiar with. And then if you start and move more into, say, like structure, for instance, you start to get truss, braces. It's, of course, something that most of the times you won't have to be dealing with but you might, right? Or at least you might need to interface with it, and an engineer will come and work on that. But you pretty much need to speak the same language on the same platform, which in this case is the software itself. Okay, cool. I'll say we are now ready to start on a new project. So if I go back, yeah, let's just close. Yeah. So things that are checked in blue, they are present somewhere on the boards. So I have a series of boards here. So it's not just about drawings. Here you have, this is a navigator for your entire project. And you jump in between drawings, boards, renderings. You can also render inside Revit. Okay. Solar analysis, schedules, as I said before, right? So if I scroll through, you see all the items that got created for this specific project. We have elevations, right? We do have sections, and they all coming from exactly the same model. We do have details as well. And we do have renderings. Probably not the best renderings, right? But this is what you can do with Revit quite easily. We'll get to do that, hopefully. And then you get a schedule here. Well, this is more of a sort of like a tutorial list. It's just because this is the example file, but normally you will have a schedule here. Here's a schedule, for instance, planting schedule, right? It gives you a list of the plants that are, so it might be good for landscapers as well, right? To talk to a landscape. And then we have all the boards, all the sheets here. So title one, sorry. Okay, site plan with a bit of solar analysis. The plans, right? What we opened before. So before we were on the active view. Now we are looking at the view being pasted on a board. Elevation and sections, details, more details. And then you have these thing called families, right? So these are the families that are loaded into Revit. So maybe I can search for Windows and see what's in here. Indeed, I don't have many. I only have this single window and skylight. If you check that on your computers, you should have way more. Cool. That's pretty much it. Is there any question? Oh, so we're gonna get to that when we do the project. The way I did it here, I mean, there is this item that is called section box. It was hidden, so it was just to show you that you can show or hide elements in Revit, and it's very useful. We'll get to that, and we'll do it later when we create our own project. So no worries. Other questions? Okay, so I think we can move on. So now, like, this was just an overview. Now is the time that we start an exercise together. So I'm expecting you guys to follow along, you know? So eventually and hopefully we all get to build our first project in Revit by the end of today. Sounds good? Cool. So I'm just gonna close all of this. Actually, close inactive, and then close this one. We don't need to save. And then we are back to our home page. So just close all the windows. If you were following along, opening the example file, just close everything. This time, we are not opening a sample file. We are creating a file, we're creating a model from scratch. So opening a new file. So we go in here, no families, but models, and we say open. Of course, we don't say open, we say new. And when it asks us what template we want to use, we will select an architectural template. Make sure you're creating a new project and not a new template, right? So this is a project, new project, and say, okay. So given the architectural template, Revit will create for us a few views that are preloaded. So you can see here, your eyes should immediately look at the project browser right here to understand what's in there already, right? What is in there? Well, we do have floor plans. We do have ceiling plans, which just keep it closed. We don't need it. We do have a 3D view, most likely, yeah. And we do have elevations. What is in those drawings yet? Nothing, right? Because we haven't built anything. But we already have the structure ready. So level 0, level 1. How do we know what height is level 1, what height is level 0? So level 0 will be by default at 0. But what about level 1? We can go to any elevation, double check, and the only information present in an elevation will be indeed the levels. So we have level 0 at 0, and level 1 is by default set at 4 meters. So Revit works in millimeters, so careful. I mean, this is a good notion to keep in mind, especially if you're working between different software. So Revit works in millimeters. You see the level is at 4,000 millimeters, so 4 meters. But once again, it's something that we can change if we want. So I can come in here, check, like open this little dialog windows with the text and say this will be instead at 5 meters, and the level will adapt, right? If we had to have walls, I'm actually gonna show you. It's better than talking about it. Yeah, before we start with the project itself, let's do this little exercise. We go to level 0, and we want to build a wall. We want to create a wall. What do? Well, we have the wall button, so most likely we come in here, we select the wall, and then after you select the item, down here in the properties, you have the option to select what is the exact family that I want to create. And then once again, my Revit is messed up, has a weird family organization. Yours, I checked in the computers, it's all fine. It gives you like basic walls and tells you exactly what's the measurement. It's like 30 centimeters, 45 centimeters. So you can pick the one that you really need quite easily. For me, it's fine. I'm just gonna go with this one. Doesn't matter for now. And then you see that my cursors change. Remember what I told you. I'm drawing probably a rectangle, or what I expect to be on a flat plan, a wall, right? But that will have an effect on what? 3D views, section views if I have, and so on and so forth. So for this reason, when I'm drawing it, Revit asks me a few information. Will ask me, wait, but how tall should it be? I need to know now as you're drawing it. So you see that up here in this green bar, I'm getting a series of information that I can input for Revit to complete the action properly. So at the moment, the height, right? The height is unconnected, and it's set to 8 meters. But if I check here, instead of unconnected, I can say, please constrain it to level 1. So I'm drawing level 0, and this will be a wall that gets to level 1. I see level 1 and not any other levels for now, because those are the only 2 levels that I have. So I say level 1, cool. And let's draw this wall. How do I draw the wall? It's up here. This is the method that I'm using. Currently, just sketching a line, right? Fine, I'm fine with that. Also, you'll see that if you hover on and keep your mouse on tools in Revit, it will give you a little preview of what the comment does. Sometimes even like a little, and it will be a little animation, right? So that's quite handy. Okay, so I'm gonna draw point A, and you see as I'm starting drawing, it gives me some information such as the measurement of it. So point A, point B, and then since I'm chaining the walls, I can keep drawing. To escape that, I just press escape twice, right? And I'll jump out the command. Here's my wall. If I select it, I see all the information down here, right? All information about that wall. It says the height is 4 meters. Why? Because level 1 is set to be 4 meters. So cool. Let's go back to my elevation, and then here's the wall, right? It totally makes sense. It gets to 4 meters because it's attached to level 1. If I get to change now the height, you see the wall will follow and will still attach to level 1. So the wall is not 5 meters. The wall is level 0 to level 1. That's the information that I'm giving to it. Okay, cool. Let's change this back to 4,000. Doesn't matter. And let's delete this wall. Just simply select it and press delete. Yeah, you find here a few notions about the user interface, something that we've been talking about. I just want to go back on on our case study, which is the Blast House by Alberto Campo Baeza, which all of you know, right? Of course. Well, anyway, this is our case study. It's not particularly complex, right? Which is a good thing, because Revit can be a bit constraining, and complex geometry is still an issue in Revit most of the times, right? You need to be a bit like of an intermediate to advanced level to do certain things in Revit. But we'll start with something very simple, which could also be the case, some sort of like case studies that you might work on for your own studio brief, right? So I copied on Moodle, when you go and check this session. So you go under the ADD. I'm going to show you on the screen, which is better. But when you go to our Moodle ADD workshops, I'm going to go a few steps back. So if you go to our Moodle page, right, and you check weekly workshops, of course you have an amazing calendar that animate. But besides that, you can go and click on today's session. And down here, you have a folder you can download. And you'll find the drawings in here. Okay, these are the drawings that we are going to use. So it's these drawings. They already been cleaned up, so they are ready to be used. And these are the drawings that we are going to use and drop into Revit to start and build our villa. So all right, if you open the folder, this is what you have. So a few images, which will serve as a reference, right? And then the drawings we want to bring in. There are different sizes. Don't panic, don't worry. We'll manage to have them fitting properly into each level, right? Cool. So what I want you to start with is level 0. First thing we want to do is to get our level 0 in here so we can begin to trace it. Although we might need to go through a bit of scaling at first, make sure that the scale of the drawing makes sense with the actual scale that we have running in Revit. So, oh, okay, you guys are still downloading it. Any issue with unzipping the files? Getting to Moodle, okay. Yep. Let's give it a minute. Okay. Are we all there? Cool. So first thing we want to do, we want to import level 0 on our level 0 in Revit. So I can go to insert, right? And I can select import image. Then going to the folder I just downloaded, and then selecting level 0 and say open. You could have done the same just by dragging the picture in, just to let you know. I normally do that when I have that on 2 monitors. Now, for the sake of showing you the process, we're doing this. So just click and drop it somewhere at the center. What's the scale of this? Who knows, right? Well, the good news is that we do have a visual scale here as a reference. So we know that this line need to be 10 meters, so 10,000 millimeters. If I do check using the measure between 2 elements, like here, and I drop the first point here, and I drop the second here, I see that this is about half of it, so 4,900. So the first thing we want to do is to use the scale command, something that is pretty much, you find it everywhere. You find it in AutoCAD, you find it in Rhino, and so on. We also do have it in here. If we go to the modify menu, which is the one at the very right end of your shelf, right? Here you find a series of tools that are quite similar to the ones that you have in AutoCAD, for instance. We do have the offset, we do have a copy, rotation, all the transformation tools. We have chamfer, yeah. So guys, again, how do we import the image into Revit, right? You go to insert, and then here you'll find a button, import image, right? Import image, select it. You search for the right path wherever you saved your images. And the one we want to import now is the level 0. So we click on level 0 and we say open. There we get a preview of the location of our image. We drop it somewhere at the center, right? And here's our image. Auto scale for now, but that's going to be the next step. So we can do the same with level 1. We go to level 1, we open it, and then once again, we do import image, and this time we do level 1. These little guys, these are the section. You can move them far away, doesn't really matter. We are missing one more level, which we need to create, right? We don't have it. We have level 0, level 1, and site, right? So if we go to any of these elevations, we have east elevation right here. We can create a new level. There are multiple ways of creating a new level. You can make a copy of a level that you already have and just move it on the vertical line. You can go to architecture, and right here you find level, or the shortcut for it, LL. Right? We can click level, and now you see that I'm basically moving on the Z starting from level 1, or if I go down, I'm kind of like getting a mid-level between level 0 and level 1. I want to add one more here. Let's say at, well, it doesn't matter. I can always adjust. So drop it somewhere here, right? And then just move it this way. And then I can change the level here if I'm not happy with the actual height. So let's say instead of 7 meters, 0.2, I want it to be at 7 meters and a half. Or you can change the distance from here. Okay. So now you see the project browser updated and created a level 2. Level 2, let's say we want to change the name. It's not level 2 to us. That's going to be the roof level. So you can jump in here, double click, and type roof level. It will ask you, would you like to rename corresponding views? Meaning like what we have here in the project browser. What do we have in here? Of course, yes. So don't show me this message again. Whenever I do type a different name, it means I actually want to change the name of that view. So yes. And now we have our roof level. Okay, so we can open the roof level and we can drop our roof image in here if we have any. So I'm gonna go to, sorry, where is it? Insert, I'm blind. And then once again, import image, roof line, open, and let's drop it here. Cool. So we have all our plan drawings in place, although they are not on scale and they are not aligned. So this is what we need to do now. We need to get them on scale and align them. How do we do that? We go back to level 0, which will be our main reference for now. We have a visual scale here. So we need to make sure that this line 0 to 10 meters measures exactly 10,000 millimeters, right? So what I do, I go to modify, select scale, which is right here, scale. You see, we get a little animation showing us, oh, you're scaling this Autodesk Revit text. Amazing, right? Cool. We select it, and then we click on the first point for a reference. I didn't go through. Select it, scale it. All right. First point, and then you see I'm drawing a line basically. End point. And then instead of being graphical, I can change this to numerical. Oh, sorry, no, actually, I'm gonna keep it graphical, because I don't know exactly how much I need to scale. Go in here, and I simply start typing 10,000. And then now, if I check the measure between these 2 points, that should be 10,000, so 10 meters. Well, roughly, right? It's 9999.2. Yeah, it depends where you get the point. So 10,000, perfect. It doesn't work. So you select the image. You say scale, and then you need to click on the first point. That will be your first reference point for the scale. Oh, really? Let me take a look. I could now go and move to level 1 and yes. Should do it again. Okay. I should explain again. Okay, fine. I'll do it again. Let me go back. Okay, this is not on scale, right? It is not now. I'm selecting the image. I'm clicking on scale. Yeah, I'm doing it again. Yeah, look at the screen and then you do it yourself. So I'm selecting the image first. I'm clicking on scale. Make sure this is on graphical. I'm selecting the first point here. And then the second. I start moving it and you see that I'm scaling. You see the boundary is moving. And I type 10,000. Click enter. And that's it. Okay, now, other very important step. We need some sort of reference to align these levels, right? So what could be the reference? We can use a grid, right? A structural grid, for instance. So I do have a grid here. So if you go to architecture and you go all the way to the right, you get the grid, GR, on the keyboard. I click on it, and with the grid, I'm gonna trace basically these red lines. So number 1, bit more precise, number 2, and then number 3, and number 4. And I can go and double click and change the name. So maybe this is AB is the vertical grid, and 1, 2 will be the horizontal one. Okay, so now when I move to level 1, you see I do have the grid as a reference. You immediately see that the drawing is off. So what I can do, I can align the drawing and also use the grid as a reference for scaling. So I'm gonna use the move command, which is right here. Grab the point where the red line cross. Constraint off. If you have constraint check, just uncheck it. And I try with my cursor to catch where the two grids cross each other, right? Where they intersect. So I'm sure I'm moving here. Then I can do the same thing with scale. But this time I'm not using this anymore. I'm just taking these as the first point. The moment the red line crosses. And then the second one is here. And then visually kind of like eyeballing it to where the two grids meet here. So this will be on scale and align. Okay. Then I'm going to do exactly the same with, sorry, before I went back to show you how to scale and I deleted the roof that I created. But it's cool, we do the process again. So we're missing our roof here. So what I'm doing, I'm going to whatever elevation and I'm creating a new level somewhere here. Oops. This is level 2. Right, so now I have level 2. Remember what I showed before, we can change the name of this. So this can be roof level. Cool. Louder. I'll try my best. Okay. Let's move to the roof level. Roof level. Again, insert, import image, roof line, somewhere here. Okay, so level 1, we do have the grid, we have it, we have a line in it. The new level that we created, there's the, let me check, we can't see the grid now. There needs to be a bit of tweaking, I think, in the view range. Right, so if you have created a new level the way I did from scratch, this will come with some default properties attached to it. So these properties, like among these properties, there is what do I see from the bottom levels, like till where do I see, right? How deep? And so you need to tweak this a bit because by default it will be set to 0. So I only see the roof level, whatever is below, I don't see it. And in that way, I can't see the grid coming from below. We build the grid at level 0. That's why. So you need to come in here in the properties, scroll down, get to view range, go to edit, and make sure that you have both bottom in the primary range and level under view depth set to level below, level 1. So in this way, I'll be able to see the grid and to scale the image accordingly. So now what I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did for level 1. So I select my image, move it according to the moment where the spot here where the red line cross. And then I'm scaling it. with this first reference point, second reference point, sorry, I'll do it again. Second reference point, bring it to where the grid cross. Now everything is perfectly on scale and aligned. Okay, cool. Are we all here? Yeah, the view range. So the view range, why is that happening? The reason why this is happening, so I can't see below level, in this case, this is the roof level, level 2, whatever. The reason why it's happening is because I created a new level. I didn't copy a level they already have. I'm pretty sure, 100% in my mind at least. If you just copy what you already have as a level, that'll be fine. You'll be able to show the grid below. But since I created a new one, it's carrying default information, which means it's set by default basically that you can't see what's below. So you need to do a bit of tweaking in the properties. So being on the roof level, what I need to do, I need to come in here, scroll down to under extents, right? You find view range. And if you click on edit, you got this little tab. And here's where you want to make sure that top, we don't care, whatever is above. What we care about is the bottom. So we want to make sure that we don't cut off the grid, which is sitting below. So we say primary range, set it to bottom. Setting to level below, level 1 on and bottom. And then same under view depth. And if you click apply and then OK, the grid should be visible. Then we use that grid once again to first align with the move command, the entire drawing, and then scaling it. So we have all the 3 drawings, scale and align. Good? Now we're going to do the same for the sections. We have a couple of sections in the drawings. We're going to do the same. So we also introduce the section command. Right. So let's jump back to level 0. Where are the sections? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know either. I mean, we need to go and extrapolate that information from the section itself somehow. Understand where the project, where the building is cut. So if I open the folder, sorry, and look at the sections, I have, so the long section, I can see that is somehow looking at the stairs, right? But the stairs is hidden, right? There is this dash line. So it'll be probably cutting before this wall, which is covering the stairs, and is looking towards this direction, which in my mind is, if we go back to Revit, we are cutting somewhere here, looking downwards, right? Looking this direction. So if I go to view, I do have a section command that I can use. I click on it. Let's save the project. Yeah, Revit will remind you once in a while that you need to save the project. It is a good idea to save the project on the way. Unless Revit just reminded you, you can always go here and say save. Save your project, create a folder for that. It doesn't matter for me now. I'm just going to save it on the desktop. Cool. So back to the section. Section button right here. We are ready to draw the section. So we said the section is probably cutting somewhere here. So I'm just gonna drop one click there and one click here. Just by luck, this is actually pointing in the right direction. If it wasn't, it is actually quite easy to just, swap the direction by clicking here. So I'm looking on in the other ways. Important thing you need to take into account when you do a section is these kind of shows the extent to which you can see stuff in the section. So you probably want to make sure that all of your model sits within. Okay, so now if we scroll down on our project browser, we see that we finally got a section there, which we didn't have before. So if I double click it, here's my beautiful section. You can change this box. This is just a visibility thing. It's kind of like restraining the visibility of your views. Like just a cropping box, basically. It doesn't really matter. You can enlarge it. So basically what we see is nothing for now, just the levels. That's all we have. Cool. So go back to level 0. We need to draw the second section. The second section, let's go and check the images here. Second section is looking at the stairs going up. There is a door on the left, short side. So most likely this will sit somewhere in here, right? We see the door, we are looking left, we seen the door, we seen the stairs, so I need to cut in here, I guess. So I'm just going to create another section, same way. Yeah, so you go to view, and you have a section button here right next to 3D view. Another way to enter the section is by double clicking this element here. So now, yeah, maybe, okay, we finalize something and then, okay, everyone here. So let's get our section in. Same process, right? So we go to our section, the long one, for instance. You can double click in here. This will open the section. And then we are going to drop this image in. So we once again go to insert, import image, section long, open, getting somewhere here, and then what I actually want to do, I actually want to move these image a bit off. So I just want to grab these levels and move, move them, constrain, move them somewhere here, and then extend them. So I do have I'm making myself a grid, right? You might want to do the same. We will do the same for the second section. So, okay, go back, import image. Oh, sorry. I do have the images right here. Cool. So all I need to do now is to align it and scale it once again. So I'm going to grab this point here this should sit somewhere. I'm gonna unconstrain, should sit somewhere here on level 0. And then we know that the red line needs to touch grid B this way. So when we scale now, we grab the first reference point. The second reference point is where the red line is. This needs to coincide with where the second grid sits. So almost on scale. Now everything is on scale and aligned. We are just missing the short section. So double click, jumping in. We can do the same thing here with the levels. We can select all of them, move them, constraining the movement so they don't move off their height. And then just selecting one of them, we can extend all of them in this way. So we repeat the same process, import image, and do section short, open, click somewhere in here, also enlarge a bit this cropping view box. All right, and we still need to align these red lines to the grid. So once again, move command, this is level 0. We'll get to level 0. This is, so we repeat the move. This is a red line. The red line needs to be aligned to the grid. So almost matching. We just need to scale it just a tiny bit. So we go back to modify and then scale. Sorry. First select the image, scale. 1, 2, and get it to the grid. So now this is perfect. Everything is perfect, but the levels, which we need to readjust. As you can see, level 1 is not here, and roof level is definitely not here. So we can come in here and change the level. We can do it manually. We can type, maybe this is, let's try 3 meters and 20 centimeters, which is perfect, more or less. And this, we can try, I don't know, 5. No, it's probably, I'll be a bit more. Yeah, 5 meters and 70 centimeters, so 5.7. So these are the levels, the right ones. So we don't have any geometry in there yet, right? So we need to get some geometry. Is anyone, does anyone have the plan level 0 in place, on scale, aligned? Yes. Cool. So let's begin building some walls, finally, right? We go to architecture. We know how to do that. Architecture, wall, right? You have the cool walls. I have I don't know why, the scrap ones here. So try and find the ones that make sense with the thickness. We're just eyeballing it. It's okay for now, for this exercise, you know. If it's your project, you're gonna, get the details of what is the thickness of that wall specifically. If you have a case study to build, you will know the thickness of that wall, and then you will try and find the right one in Revit, or you'll make your right one. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab a random one for now. I think trying this one. When I draw a wall, I have multiple ways of drawing a wall. I can draw a line. I can draw a square, which is interesting. Maybe something we might think of since we have the guidelines for the square, right, which is our grid. A polygon, a curve. I can pick lines, which is also very interesting. So if you have a drawing from coming in from CAD, for instance, you can pick the lines and turn them into walls. I'm going to use a rectangle, and I want to make sure that I'm on level 0, and this is constrained to level 1. And so you see it will be 3.2 meters. Location line. It can either be center line. I'm going to change this to sorry, finish face exteriors. So now when I draw the wall, I'm drawing a rectangle. So maybe this is too much. Let me change this type to this one. Rectangle, right? And I use, sorry, not center line, but finish face exteriors. And I use the grid as a guide to draw my wall. Press ESC. Did you guys make it? Okay. So now, some of you said they don't have a 3D view by default. If you go to View, you can click on 3D View and generate one. Okay. If you already have it, you simply go under 3D Views, double click, and here's our amazing wall. You see, from level 0 to level 1. If I orbit around, I see that this is wrong. Why? This should get to level 1. Let me check in the... Oh, something happened. So maybe I did it so many times that I forgot to check that it needs to get to level 1. Let me go back and check that. So I go back to level 0. Indeed, it's unconnected, and it says it's 2 meters high. So I can go back, and instead of redoing it, I can select all of these walls and say, instead of being unconnected, get it up to level 1. All right. And then if I go and check on the 3D, now it's fine. Cool. Now, I want to go to level 1. And this time, I want to build a floor. Okay? So I click on floor. Doesn't really matter here. Once again, I have a limited selection, but you guys should have better options. You can create a floor in different ways, right? By default here, you should have selected pick walls. We do have walls, so it's gonna be easy. We just pick the walls and it will create the floor for us. So I'm gonna say, okay, cool. I'm gonna click on the walls. This is one, this is another one, here's another one, and here's another one. And click enter. And we'll get this message saying, would you like walls to go up to this floor's level to attach to its bottom? So basically, the floor will act as the constraint for the walls. I'm gonna say no for now, so don't attach it. Say yes. Let's go to the 3D, and here's the result. So there is this type of situation. Oh, sorry. I should have said no. Right. If I say no to that message, now I'm still having the walls that are overlapping with the floor plate. Cool. So what I want to do instead, I want to make this a bit more realistic with what's happening in in real life. So there will be an offset for the floor plate, and the walls will kind of create that joint moment with the floor plate. So between vertical and horizontal partition, we'll kind of recreate that node. How do I do that? I can select, sorry, the walls. Do they have walls in place? Just one. So instead, we did a rectangle instead of using a line for the wall. I switched to rectangle because it wouldn't make sense. We have all the perimeter walls. It's just a rectangle. So just use a rectangle tool, and then go to, if you're on level 0, just use the grid as a guideline to create the rectangle. And I will create rectangular walls. For the floor. So, okay, when you work on the floor, you have an option here. So these are the option for you to draw the floor, the walls, whatever. They will always appear here whenever you start the command. So this is pick walls. Just creating a floor. So whenever you say, I don't know what happened, got stuck. So you create a floor, this will pop up automatically. And you can say, pick walls, and you can pick them. You need to pick all at the same time, yeah. And then you just enter. No worries. So what I'm gonna do now doesn't really matter. It's just to show you, like, if you didn't do the same, it's okay. It's just a little detail. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna offset the flow in. By the way, if the image is a bit on the way and you select it every time, one thing that you can do, I think, is in where is that? Trying to find it. Where is the pin? Oh, it's probably, isn't it under view? There is a pin command, which I'm trying to find somewhere. Should be here. Oh, sorry, it's right here in modify. So you select your image and you can pin it. So this will lock it. You won't be able to move it around. So we want to select the floor. When you're not able to select something, you can scroll through selections in Revit by pressing Tab. I don't know why it doesn't let me select the floor. Another thing you can do, if you get into some like buggy situation like this one, you can select all of this and then go into filter, check known, and then check what you want to select, like floors in my case. And finally, I get my flow selected. So just what I'm gonna do, don't do it, it's fine. I'm just gonna show you. What I want to edit the boundary and offset it. And then now, shall I attach it? No, shouldn't. Right, I'll do it again. Edit boundary. So this is offsetted already. So I say yes. I say don't attach, but yes to this one. Okay, so go to section. Now we have this nice detail, right? It's fine if you didn't do that, but just look at it. This is gonna be recorded, so this is for the records. So the aim of this little tweak was to get that type of node, which is more of what happens in the reality, right? In an engineer. Okay, cool. So I'm fine as long as we all do have those four walls and the floor. What's happening there? Okay, guys, now let's have fun populating the base level 0 plan with these walls. So you can get a bit of interiors done. It doesn't matter that it's all there, right? Just use different type of walls, maybe thinner ones. Make sure that when you draw your walls, make sure that they are attached. They go to from level 0. They're not unconnected, but they go to level 1. Don't do it. Just don't. Yeah, don't do it. Like that's a further step that I show for when you're gonna go back on the recordings. Is detail, right? It's not that crucial. So I just want it to be there when you're gonna go back and look at it, but don't follow for now. It doesn't really matter for now. It was just to create that node between the vertical and the horizontal partition. You know, the way they're gonna attach together, which is closer to what happens in reality, but it's not necessary at this stage. I'm trying to see if I can import more families. You shouldn't have this issue, but I do have. So whenever this happens, there's few things you can do. You can go back online and try to download a package of families. You can go to, I think is once again insert and do load family and check what you have. Like I do have some windows, for instance, here, which I can use. I'm not sure about walls. Man. Oh, never mind. Okay, once you have a few walls in place, I want to show you how you add windows and doors. Okay, so we are here at level 0. I'll suggest everyone to do now what you should do. You should get this to wireframe so you're able to see underneath. And so we're able to see where we need to place the windows and the doors, right? At least for the external walls. So let's start with the windows. I'm going to click on Windows. And I have several here I can choose from. I think for now I'm going to go with, well, let's see which one fits the best. This is probably too large. Still, this is probably the right one. So I position myself where the windows needs to sit, and then I simply click. You can, when you do this, you can decide if you're going to have the glass internally or externally. And you can always change this later. So we do this for all the windows that sit on this side. And then we pick a different type, smaller one, which I don't have once again. So I'll need to create one. So what I can do here is go to Edit Type, duplicate this type, and create, say, I don't know, probably it's going to be 500 by 500. Maybe that's too little. Let's do 600 by 600. And say OK. And rough width, change it to 600. And then rough height, once again to 600. Say apply. OK. And here's my the window that I just customized. So it's a smaller version of a previous one. Same way, I can create a larger one. So I'm gonna go in here, do Edit Type, duplicate, and this time this will be 2 meters by 2 meters. I can change the rough width and the rough height. And say apply, OK, and then I copy it in here. I go to my 3D view and I see how this looks. I'm missing a window here. I haven't placed it. So what I can do, I can grab this one and I say copy. Okay, then all I need now is the main door. So same way I pick, select, and apply windows to my project, I do with doors. So I click in here, door. I select the door that I want. Uh, Probably gonna be, there should be a single flush. I don't have many doors here. Let me see if I can load more families. Doors, external doors. Oh, I have plenty of them. And you see that I also do get a preview when I select them. Let's pick this one. Whenever I find the one that I'm happy with, I say open. And now this is on my project, right? So I can move and place it where I want it. To change the way the flush opens, I can simply press tab or space actually, space bar, and then click. And now let's go back to the 3D. It doesn't look amazing, but it does the job. Okay, cool. What you might have noticed is that these windows are a bit too farther close to the bottom. And maybe here we want to change this type to be more of a squarish window. So what I can do, I can edit the type and change the height to be roughly the same as the width. And say apply. And then when I select it, I can change the head height as well. Right, I can do the same for all of them. These can be 2 meters 0.3, and these can be 2 meters 0.3. So they're all aligned. Okay, we're almost, I mean, we're missing the internal doors, but we're almost done with the ground floor. What we can do, we can also select all these walls, the internal ones. And say attach top base. And then it will ask us attach to what? And we select the floor. And then I get this issue just because of the limited amount of walls that I can pick, but you guys should be fine. So I'm gonna say cancel. But it's in that way, you don't see the walls coming through, right? Touching the ground. So touching the floor finish. Okay, so next, what I want to do next, I want to jump to level 1. Want to make sure I'm in wireframe mode. So I see the drawing behind. I can pin it. And I'm going to create now the glass box. So in order to create a glass box, since I want to use it to attach the roof, the first thing that I do, I create a glass box that is not sitting exactly where it should. So I'll have my glass box, which is gonna be made of a curtain system, right, running all around where the roof line is. So let's do that. I can do it in multiple ways, but one way would be going and select walls, and then in the drop down menu here, select curtain wall empty. I do select curtain wall empty, and then once again, I'm selecting the rectangle to place it. Height, I wanted to have it attached to the roof level as a top constraint, so that's fine. And then I simply trace with a rectangle, I simply trace the roof line for now. So if I move back to the 3D, that's what I created. Okay. The next step is to create the roof for it. So I move to the roof level and I can create, this time instead of creating a floor, I can create a roof. So I click on roof. I'm using pick walls once again, as for floor before. Selecting 1, 2, 3, 4, and then say enter. By the way, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna say enter, and then I'm gonna show you how to fix that. But because by default, you're gonna get slopes, which is definitely not what we want, right? If you look at the image, this is what we are expecting, right? Flat roof. So how do we change that? We can select back the roof, say edit footprint, and you see this little signal here is telling us that there is a slope there. So I can select all of them and then go to the properties and uncheck defined roof slope. Say apply, enter, and now roof is done. Now the type of roof I'm using is, I'm definitely trying to use something thinner, something like that, for instance, or I can create my own, right? Or I can try and load more roof types. Let me go to the section and see how this sits. So deposition is wrong, the thickness is wrong. So if you guys got it right in terms of thickness, just skip this step, which I'm doing. I'm just gonna basically make, once again, I'm making a duplicate. Roof, ADD. This time I'm entering the structure in order to change it. And I'm gonna change this to say 75. Maybe even more. All right. So this roof starts on the roof level, right? The finishing line of the roof. I wanted to finish there. So how do I do? I can select the roof, go in the constraints, so I select the roof, move to the constraints, and I have a base offset from level, right? I go to the base offset and I set this to be minus, say, 200, so 20 centimeters down. If I go to the 3D, now this is where I am. Now I move back to level 1, and I can finally align these walls to where they actually need to sit. You see this box that is highlighted in here? This is where the glazing needs to be. Okay. Move back to the 3D. Ah, sorry, because the roof is gonna follow, of course. I need to detach it. Or even better, like if I delete it. Yeah, let's delete it. Let's delete it. We get our roof in here, and we then again go to level 1, and we recreate our glazing system. So walls, curtain wall, empty, grab the rectangle, and make it back again. Make sure this gets to the roof line. All right. So this is what it actually appears on the images, right? Then we need the columns here, and we need now to attach this glazing to the roof. So I'll do the same way as I did before. I'm just gonna select the glazing. Sorry, make sure you only select the glazing, otherwise you won't get the option. And say attach top base, and then select my roof. All right. I then want to divide this glass portion into panels. I can create a curtain grid, probably moving to one of the sections, either section 1 or section 2. So here's my my curtain wall. I go to architecture, curtain grid. You see that as I hover on top of the curtain wall, I can start adding these elements. Let's start with like 180 distance between one another. More or less. Okay, and then this is how it looks in 3D for now. So they're not at the same distance for now. So I'm gonna show you a little trick to get them at the same distance. If we move back to the section, we can use an annotation. We can use just a like a line annotation to get the distance between one and another, just by simple clicking on the element that gets highlighted. Let's move it up, and then you get this little equal sign here, and it says the distances are not equal. If you check it, that will automatically equalize the distances. We can delete this. And we can say just okay. It will keep the constraint, but it will just go. So we need to repeat the same on the short side. So we go to section number 2. We see where the glazing is here. And once again, we go to architecture, curtain grid. Why is it not working? Oh, this is interesting. So you use this and align dimension, and you check the distance between each of them by clicking, right? It will like leave you with the dimension, which is the distance. And then after you're done with that, just ask, there is going to be an EQ symbol, which is the equalizer for the distance. You check that, and it will just reorganize the distances. Trying to understand what's happening here. Oh, because that's not visible in this section for sure. This one should. No? Oh, maybe I just need to go to an elevation then. Okay, I'm now gonna use the section for this purpose. All right, so this is better. I'm just gonna use an elevation for that. I'm gonna do the same. Let's see if it works this time. So curtain grid, yes. And I'll repeat exactly the same. So I'm gonna go to annotate, align, move it up, equalize, and then you can get rid of it and say okay. Cool. So the nice thing about it is that now we can assign mullions to those vertical grids that we just defined, right? By the way, I only did it on 2 sites, this one and this one, so I don't have to repeat all over the place. What I can do, I can select these 2, delete them, and then use the mirror command to have that copied and mirrored, right? First, I'll assign the mullions. So I'm just going to go architecture, mullion, and then I want to grab maybe a rectangular mullion, 30 millimeters square. And then you see that if you hover on top of these elements, where the panel sends, you get the option to select it and drop the mullions right in place, which is quite cool. One, two. We're not gonna do corner ones yet. I'm grabbing this one. Actually, I'm grabbing like all of this. Say filter. Curtain walls, grids, curtains, panels, curtain wall, mullions, walls. Check it. I need walls as well. Okay. So you need to uncheck this. All right, I'm starting with this. I'm going to level 1. And I'm using the mirror command, mirror draw axis, grabbing the middle point, which will be highlighted by this triangle, and then drawing the axis for that, and releasing. And then if I go through 3D, I just created a copy, right? I'll do the same here, only selecting these elements. I just want to make sure that only these elements are selected, so I go to filter, and I check what's selected in here, which looks good. So again, back to level 1, mirror, grab the center of this box, draw the midline, and that's it. Let's move back to the 3D. Now, what is left to do is just to get that corner mullion. It's not difficult. We found it under mullion once again, but this time we're looking for the corner mullion, which is probably too big. Yeah, it's definitely too big. So we can make a copy of it. We can just do edit type and create a duplicate. And I'll be creating a 50 by 50 one. Say okay, and then thickness, change it to 50. Say apply, okay. And then I can drop it on the corners. Cool. Then what we're missing, if we look at the level 1, is the columns, right? The columns that hold the roof. So we have a column option, which is right here. If you click it, you have the option to check. Actually, this is structural columns by default. So you need to go back to architecture, columns, and select columns architectural. So in this way, you can get all these profiles, which is what we're looking for. We might need to create our own because I believe this is too big indeed. You see, like it's completely disproportionate. So we might want a 15 by 15 centimeters one. So once again, I'm creating a new type, creating a duplicate of it, and do a 150 by 150. Say okay, change the depth and the width accordingly. Say apply, okay. And now I know that this goes to the roof level, which is exactly what I want. So I'm gonna drop it here, somewhere, and then here, and then here, and then here. And then all I need to do is to mirror it. But before I do that, I wanna go to the 3D and see more or less where they sit. So you see they are not aligned. So one thing that I can introduce now is the align tool, align command, which is in modify. You get this align, which also goes by AL. So if I click it, first I need to select the surface which I want to align to. So getting this external surface here. And second, I want to select the surface of the object that I want to align to that specific one. So I'm gonna go here and click enter. So same I'll do here, 1, and then, sorry, I'll do it again. Line, 1, 2. So now it sits perfectly on the edges. I'll do the same here. Sorry, the other way around. Once we have all of them in place, we can once again select them with Control. And then go into top view, which probably looking to use the roof level now, and do a mirror. Then we select them all again. We can drag a selection and then go to filter, say check none, and only select the columns and say, okay, only the columns are selected. And then I can do now attach top base and attach them to the roof. Questions? So there's not much time left. So what I want to get to show you is a bit of, like, no matter where you got, try and follow along with these next few steps. Whatever you have, we understand now how to bring this into a sheet, how to organize the views, and how to run a quick render, so a quick visualization of your 3D, right? So talking about sheets, do you have them under here? And I have one that is set by default. You should too. If I double click on it and I say okay, just double click on it, and here it is. Of course, it comes with a title block. You can get rid of it. It doesn't matter for now. The way you do, you just enter and edit the family. So this once again is a family, same as a window, same as a wall, and you can load new ones, right? You can have different type of title blocks. You can save your own, and so on. It doesn't matter for now. We just use it as a simple sheet to organize our views and our plans. So plans, I think is in general, I would say is a good practice to create your own version of the plan and the working drawing. So you have a working drawing and you create a copy that you only use to visualize it on the board, and that's also where you apply the template, where you clean up the drawing a little bit. So what I would suggest everyone to do is to create a copy of this view. So you can do it with right click. I think you need to do one by one. Yeah, you need to do one by one. So you select level 0, right click, and you have a duplicate view option. You just say duplicate, and then you can rename this to say level 0 board. You can do the same with all the levels, level 1. Right, and we want to open level 0 board, right, the one that we just created. Come in here. Now this plan doesn't make much sense, right? Because there are no internal doors, there is no stairs. It's missing information, of course, but it's just to show you how you can still try and visualize what you produced so far. So if you go to view, which is right here, you have one thing called visibility. Actually, yeah, visibility graphics. I actually want to check. Yeah, I think it's VV. It says VG. I usually call it with VV. Anyway, visibility and graphic, something you can check for this view. And in here, we can change how elements are visualized by Revit in a specific drawing, in all of them, up to us. We create templates, right? So I just want to show you very quick tip, for instance, could be, whenever there is a line, like the cut of a line of an element, either the line gets thicker or the pattern becomes a color, right? Let's say we try this. So we search for walls, which should be somewhere down here, walls, and we can change the lines and click on override and say pattern. We probably keep the lines solid as they are. Color, you just get a black color, say okay, and then weight, we get this to something like 4. You say okay, and you say apply. Did it change at all? In theory, it should. Then it's probably not visible here because I don't have thin lines on, or I do have thin lines on. That's why. And then I'm going to do the same here for patterns. So override. Program that one. Let's change the color. Yeah. Say okay, enter. So let's say this is your template, right? And you want to apply this template to somewhere else. What you can do then, you can create a specific template for this. You can go to view template, create template from current view, enter your name. So this will be ADD workshop. Say enter, ADD workshop. All right. And then you can select the other views that you duplicated. And then with right click, you can apply the template to that with apply view templates. Select ADD workshop, say okay. So now if I go to the level 1, of course, yeah, here there is nothing that is cut but the curtain wall. So only these will be in red. But if you have anything else that is cut, the same would happen. Well, we don't have columns here because we only applied that to walls. What we should have done instead is go to template, manage view templates. Let me check. ADD workshops. We might want the shadows on. Edit. It's by default. Okay. Yeah, I need to change it in the settings. So if I go back to level 0, I go to visibility graphics, and maybe this time I check everything. And I do click in here, and I change this. Maybe it's a different tone. Say okay. Okay, line. No. Sorry, let me check again. Of course, it needs to be solid. Right. So now, in theory, if I move to level 1, why the column is not applied to that? That's weird. Anyway, so whenever you're happy with the template that you set up for your drawing, it's time to bring the drawing, the section, the plan, whatever, into the board. So what you do, you go to your board, and then you simply drag and drop the drawing that you want on your board. You see this window will appear. If you click, then the drawing will be on your board. Like for instance, now I probably don't want to see all the title blocks, so I can do what I can do. I can come in here in the viewport title W line. I can select no title, so this will be just the drawing itself. And keep in mind that this is like a sticker at the moment. If I want to get in the view and activate it, I just need to double click on it, and so I'm now acting on the view. So whatever I'm doing here will have an immediate effect on the actual view. If I double click in the emptiness, I'm deactivating the view. and I can keep like dragging it around and organizing these as a single drawing. So for instance here, remember we spoke about visibility of elements in Revit. Maybe I don't want to see, for instance, these sections in here. Sorry, these elevations in here, maybe not even the sections. I just want to focus on the plan. So what I can do, I can activate it. I can select section and elevation markers, right click, and I can do hide in view category instead of elements. So all the objects from the same category will be hidden, and I'll just focus on the plan. Okay, cool. And then maybe this plan, I don't want to have it. This is right now at 1 to 100 as a scale. I can see it from here, from the scale. I want to change this to 1 to 200, so it'll be smaller. Or you can create your own scale. I'm going to do the same with level 1. Bring it in here, changing to no title, and then changing the scale to 1 to 200. Bringing it up, entering it, and getting rid of these elements. Right, and say right click, hide in view category. Now I can align it. And then maybe I want the section to be here as well. Grab section 1. And this time, what I don't want to see is this. So selecting it, right click, hide in view, elements, hide in view, category. Okay, and then maybe I want a 3D view of my building. Maybe I want to crop it, so I can show you guys what I did before with the crop, with the section box. So I go back to 3D. I'm duplicating this view. So I'm creating a new one. Now I'm on 3D copy. I'm going to select all the levels and say right click, hide in view category. Right, so I'm only focusing on the geometry. I'm turning on the shadows. I turn on the sun path. So continue with current settings. And then I can get this to either consistent colors or realistic. Realistic will just take a bit because it's calculating the textures. Oh, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't look great. So maybe just keep it to consistent colors. And then I'm going to activate a section box. Section box, you find it here in the properties. You have it right here, section box. And then in this way, you can crop your model. Like this, for instance. Well, we don't have much to show, but let's say you do. This could be a quick drawing that you export and you use. I actually want to turn off the sun. I don't need it here. I just want to have this one, and I'm going to hide this. And now I go back to my sheet and I bring in this copy of the 3D view. So maybe it's too small, so once again I can come in here and this time I can change the scale to be bigger. So maybe 1 to 50. Change this to no title. All right. And then one last thing we can do is run a quick rendering, a quick visualization of our model. So we go to 3D. And we can maybe change this from an orthographic view to a perspective. So you still do it here. In here where it says projection mode, you have orthographic. You switch this to perspective. All right. And then we go to, let's add a bit of idea of trees. So you can add side components. You can select the trees from here. So just selecting some random ones. Doesn't really matter. They will be automatically dropped on the ground level. Unless I think you can snap them to, yeah, you can snap them to another level. Oops. I think it's, sorry. By default, it got snap on actually on the upper level. Why? Why is so? So let me go back to level 0. Let me try and drop them here. They're all the same. Okay, let's look at a 3D. Gosh. They're definitely not the same size. Well, it doesn't matter. Let's keep it like this for now. So this will be our view. Okay. And then we go to rendering settings. We keep the settings set to draft, which is the very basic settings, just to have a fast render. Scheme exterior, sun only. I'll say, yeah, that's fine. Sunlight from top line, sky, few clouds or very few clouds. That is fine. We go to, to view. And then we have render. We click on render, we get this dialog box once again, where we can set the size. Let's keep it to draft. Let's keep it to screen resolution because we don't care about that now. But of course, if you need like an 8.0 or an A1 for your image, you need to change the settings accordingly and check the resolution. I'm gonna do, I think this is all fine. Say render. Okay, that's it. I can now either save it to the project or export it as an image. Maybe what I want to do, I want to change this background to be just a simple color, a simple white. Say okay, and maybe having it as a medium. It's super fast, so it should be fine. Just having it to medium rather than having it to draft settings. And I think we're good to go, and we just re-render. Okay, I'm gonna save it to the project and call it render number 1. Say okay, and now if I go back to my board, which is, where is that? I lost it. Here, I see now there is a rendering button here, so it means that there is a rendering a list, which is the one that I just created. I can just drag and drop it here on my board. So I do change the title block once again, and here it is. Not sure you can get this bigger. You will need to change. I think you will need to change basically the resolution for it. That's the only way, unfortunately. No, you actually can stretch it. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's very messy board, but let's say this is our board. Whenever we are happy with it, we can finally print it. So we can print a PDF out of that, which is very easy. You can do Control P. Well, it's thinking. Don't know what's the issue. Okay, Control P, and then we want to change this to be Adobe PDF. Select the print range, which will be either current view or select views and sheets, and then this will let you select the exact view or the exact board that you want to print. So I want to just select the board in here. So I'm just gonna go to here, select it, and say select. Then I want to click on setup, and in setup, I should be able to set, either the scale, like zooming in, fitting to the page. I'm not sure what page is this at the moment. This is a letter size, so I maybe want to change this to an A1. So I'm gonna go for A1, fit to page, center, and then landscape size, landscape orientation, and then vector is fine. Raster quality, height is fine. Colors, we don't want it black and white, so it's fine. We want to keep colors. We say okay. We go okay. Yes. Gonna select where to save it. Say save. This will create a PDF for us. And here's your final beautiful boards, right? Quite messy now. That's pretty much it for today. We had to rush a bit, but I hope you can go through the recordings, and that's gonna help you. You can always stop and rewatch. That's just a very basic intro to Revit. There is way more you can do with the software, but I'll say this is more than enough as an introduction, at least to get you going with the software and start to produce, reproduce case studies or trying to work on your own project. I'll say Revit might be a bit constraining compared to other software when you start with other software like Rhino, Cinema 4D, Maya, whatever. Revit is definitely like a completely different approach, but let's see what you can get out of it. So try and get your head around the software. I know now it sounds a bit overwhelming, but it'll get better. Is there any question?